It's a Guy Jeans podcast.
This episode is brought to you by goldco.com. Go to goldco.com/guy to check it out and receive a great deal. Go to goldco.com/guy.
Hey, you guys, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for listening to the podcast, you guys, and supporting the YouTube channel, Spotify, Waypoint TV, wherever you guys get your podcasts, iTunes, Apple Podcasts. All that stuff is very appreciated. The podcast is growing, super stoked. My next guest is JP DeRose, and you guys got to check this guy out, man. He is a monster in the video world. He produces TV shows for Waypoint TV. He has his own show, which is amazing. You guys got to check it out. Go to jpderose.com to check out all his stuff. He does fishing shows. He produces them. He edits them. We're going to talk about all that good stuff that he does. And he's from Ontario, Canada, in the Toronto area. And he's a super interesting guy. So without further ado, here's JP DeRose. JP, how you doing?
I'm great, Guy. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for being on my podcast.
I appreciate the invite.
Where are you right now?
I am home. I'm in just north of Toronto in Ontario, Canada.
Oh, no way. What time is it there?
It is 1 p.m.
Oh, okay. So it's 10 here, 10 a.m. Yeah, big difference there. I would suspect that your guys' seasons are a little later than us way down here in California, is according to fish species and stuff. Is that right?
That would be right. I mean, depending if you're NorCal or not, but yes, yeah. Normally this year has been a very, very weird year. It's been very, very mild. Today is almost 50 degrees.
No way.
So, and that's normally it would be, anywhere between 25 and 33 this time of year on average. Uh-huh. So we've been getting a very, very mild winter, which I'm completely fine with.
Yeah. When you guys, here's a question. I'm going to jump right into the smallmouth thing. Sure. Because I know you guys have smallmouth up there. I love fishing for smallmouth. Yeah. And so what do you find as far as like water temperature wise? Like do they turn off at a certain temperature for you guys there? And how does that work?
I mean, I've caught them as cold as 37-degree water.
Really?
So I think it just depends on where your smallmouth have been born and raised.
Yeah. As
to their tolerance and their range of, feeding during temperature. Mm-hmm. Our fish are used to being, in that 34 to 37 degree water for months on end up here. So, traditionally up here, we get a big feed in the fall where they, they're going to eat as much as they can before they winter, and their metabolism slows down. They kind of go winter out in 30 feet of water.
Yeah.
But I've caught them ice fishing. So, it just depends. If you're in the right lake,
yeah,
it could be, there is no temperature. And I've caught them a lot shallower than most people would expect them at certain times of the year. And we see this in the U.S. as well in areas like Wisconsin, like Green Bay, where as soon as the ice is out, they push shallow. So that's another thing that tends to happen.
Interesting. So for those that don't know, could you tell me and everyone else that's listening, what you do and who you are and that sort of thing? You're kind of a big deal in the video world, TV personality and that sort of thing in the fishing world. So would you mind talking a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd ever consider myself kind of a big deal, but I am fortunate to be working in an industry that I am very passionate about, have been all my life. So basically, I would say to describe myself, I am a former jock who always loved to fish from the time he could walk. Uh-huh. And when I stopped playing competitive sports in the university age, I had a need to kind of fill in my competitive drive, and I took up tournament fishing and tournament bass fishing, to be exact. Uh-huh. And that was basically a catalyst for me to compete at a fairly high level in Canada. Did some national stuff in the U.S., FLW kind of stuff. and just loved it, but got known for being someone who could speak on camera relatively well. And that kind of led to, that was at the same time that World Fishing Network was created, and they actually were filming one of the series I was fishing. And they interviewed me, said I was a dead ringer on camera. I didn't think anything of it, because in reality, I was a caterer at the time.
Right on.
I was running my family's catering company and fishing quite a bit. And so basically, I just ended up doing an interview. They loved it. They wrapped my boat and truck, paid for my entry fees that year.
Nice.
Sent me to iCast for the very first time to do interviews for the web, saw my interviews, and said, you definitely need a show. So I had my first show, which was back then called Getting Schooled with JP DeRose. And I did that for 4 years, created another show called Beyond the Cast. And at that time, I got into the production side of things and figured out that I could really, really hone into the production side. I was an art major in school, so the production side was very similar to what, composition and lighting and just making things look nice. So I taught myself to shoot, got hired to shoot a couple series, taught myself to edit, and created my own production company. And here we are 16 years later.
Wow, man. So isn't that crazy, like going from a caterer to like where you are now, and just how life takes us, huh? So cool.
You got to listen to the cues once in a while. I feel like
Exactly.
I feel like it was all kind of timing wise. I was still all the years, I'd say since up until 19, I was still doing the catering. 2019, so 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So for 11 years of my career, trying to be a host of a fishing show and fish tournaments and start a production company, I was still running the catering company. And it got to the point, and I worked with my two brothers, and it got to the point where I got busy enough, and COVID hit, not long after, and the business really started to suffer, that I felt like it was a perfect opportunity for me to leave the business to my brothers so that they could try to make a go of it, rather than three of us eating from the same pie.
Yeah.
See if two guys could survive doing it, and then I was able to focus my attention on what I'm doing now.
That's so cool. So being a bass tournament angler, was there a lot of pressure?
Yes and no. There's as much pressure as you want to put on it. It's weird. When I first stepped up to the highest level in Canada, which back then was called the Super Series, CFT Super Series, it was like kind of elite series platform, except you had a co-angler in the boat. So, in the beginning, it was, I took on my rookie year. That was when I got sponsored by WFN. I won Rookie of the Year that year. And I just had fun, a lot of fun that year fishing. And I didn't take it too seriously. I was fishing against, some really big names in Canada at the time. And, Bob Azumi is still probably known all over the U.S. and Canada. But the top anglers in Canada were in this series. I walked in there, won Rookie of the Year. And then I started to take myself seriously because all of a sudden I had a wrap boat and truck from WFN. So my next year, I actually got too serious, and I did it to myself. And about halfway through the year, I made a conscious decision that, I can catch them every day of practice. Why am I spinning out during the tournaments? And it was because I was trying too hard to do well. And I decided to just go fishing, and things have been great since.
Isn't that weird how that works? I mean,
it's almost, it's like golf. The harder you try to hit a ball, the more likely you are to shank it.
Yeah.
Where if you just walk up to the ball and you're relaxed and your swing is natural and you're not trying to make the ball do something it doesn't want to do, things tend to work out. Fishing's very similar.
Yeah. One of the things you said was kind of interesting too, about the filming and how you went about that is you started your show and then you learned how to edit and then you basically learned how to produce and all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of interesting for folks that are trying to get into that world. I don't think they realize, you got to learn a lot of the aspects of all that stuff. Isn't that true?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was very fortunate when WFN, World Fishing Network, first started. It was a Canadian company before it got bought up by the Outdoor Sportsman's Group.
Yeah.
And I had a chance to work with really good producers and editors in the beginning. These guys were professional. This was their career choice, right? You were a career producer or a career editor. And they came from the sports world. Yeah. So it would be the equivalent of Canadians' ESPN kind of thing, where these guys produced sports shows. So they had this very cutting-edge, fast-cut pace, look to them. Not so much of the cinematic side of things, but more so that sports side of things.
Sure.
And I'm an absorber by nature. I can watch people do something, and within a relatively short amount of time, I usually can absorb, figure out what they're doing, and then start to apply it in my own way.
Yeah.
And I did that with my editing.
Okay.
I mean, I'm at the point now where, you know, when we first started producing shows, we would give 2 weeks to an editor, 10 days to do a half-hour show. And I've figured out my own little, you know, ways of doing things that are against the grain.
Yeah.
And I can cut a show in under 2 days.
Nice.
So it really has made things a lot less expensive from a production standpoint for us, but also more efficient. I mean, I am an efficiencies guy. Whether I'm fishing or whether I'm editing or whether I'm running a catering company, efficiencies really will make you a lot of money or save you a lot of money.
What program are you using for editing your show?
Premiere Pro.
Yeah, okay. Did it take a while
I've taught myself.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, did you teach yourself how to do that? Or did you have to?
Yeah, I actually literally sat down and I used one of the greatest resource tools known to man, YouTube. And,
right.
You know, I would literally, if I wanted to learn how to do something, I would just go on YouTube and figure it out. Or if I had a challenge where I felt like, you know, things weren't working well. When I first started to play around with editing, I had Final Cut because I'm a Mac guy, and I hated it. I hated every minute of it.
Yeah.
And I just decided that, you know, Adobe, because I knew how to use Photoshop from my graphic arts background, a lot of the things I noticed that you would do in Photoshop apply to every Adobe. Adobe has a system. And if you know Photoshop, you probably will understand Premiere Pro really well, or you'll understand parts of After Effects pretty well, or Illustrator pretty well. So I just felt like if I stayed in one family that I was already familiar with, it would be a shorter learning curve for me.
Yeah. When you develop a show, do you like write everything out? Like, you know, this, like basically, okay, we're going to shoot this to, you know, the first half hour, then we're going to shoot this. And are you using multiple cameras, or are you just using one camera to shoot stuff, or how does that all go about? Like just like script wise?
So no script. I find it's very hard to tell a fish what to do when you haven't had a meeting with them. So I kind of let the chips fall where they may on the water. I have a general idea from past experiences how I want to go about shooting the show and what I think, you know, the fish are going to be doing or responding to at that time of year that I'm shooting the show. So generally I've got a fairly good idea of what's going to happen. But at the end of the day, I always go prepared to let the fish do the speaking. And I've been professing this my entire career, is that you can try to force a jig down their throat, or you can try to force them to eat a topwater, but at the end of the day, they're going to tell you what they want. No different than fly fishing. Sure. You know, if they're on a specific hatch, you can throw woolly buggers at them all you want. But if they're eating micro nymphs, you better give them a micro nymph.
Right. Yeah. So basically. So
yeah, camera wise. So when we started, we would shoot 2 cameras, camera boat chaser, and then, you know, we're at a very good advantage right now, technology wise. I remember when we used to travel, I would have about $500 in baggage fees for, you know, the Steadicam outfit and the tripods and the lighting kits, and, you know, the cameras were just, you know, ENG style shoulder mount cameras. And, you know, now I'm down to traveling with a backpack. So in 2 backpacks, one rolly and one backpack, I've got a drone, a 4K slow motion drone. I've got 2 camera bodies, 3 lenses, all my batteries, my laptop, you know, all my action cams for underwater stuff, and a secondary cam. So we're down to 1 cameraman, 1 action cam positioned properly, and we take some time to shoot some good quality B-roll every so often, like the drone stuff to set up, you know, where you are, or the underwater footage.
Yeah.
So, you know, as we go along, we just do it that way.
It's done so well, man. I'm just like, it's almost like you have this huge production company in real reality. And that's the idea,
myself, and Irene, basically.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have another cameraman. It's just you, or is there another person?
No. So I have several freelancers that I've gone to know, some that I've trained from the ground up. I took a different approach a number of years ago, and I found that, you know, good cameramen who have studied to be cameramen are really good. For certain things, they're great. But the problem is with fishing, there's so many little nuances that are going to happen that are important to the viewer to tell the story, that I found it was easier to take a fisherman and teach them how to use a camera than it was to teach a cameraman how to fish.
I love it. Yeah.
Okay, so it was literally to the point where I would get people who loved to fish but had liked camera gear or had a general knowledge of it, and I would teach them. I had buddies of mine who had never picked up a camera before that I could teach them to shoot one of my shows.
Yeah.
Within a couple days. And that's what we did. So, you know, I even have my son now who's an 18-year-old budding musician, turning 18 next week, who's been working with me since he was 13 years old. And I've just taught him everything I know about using a camera.
So cool. Awesome. Where are you guys going now? Are you traveling all over the world? Are you kind of just staying in Canada? Where are you filming now?
So we kind of do a little bit of everything. I spend a lot of time down in Panama at Tropic Star Lodge. I started there in 2016 was the first time I got invited to go down and kind of, I guess, expose the lodge and its fishing to the northern U.S. and Canada based on my show. And went down there, shot 3 shows in 4 days, went back in 2018 and I said to the fishing director, Captain Richard White, I said, let me bring 2 buddies of mine down here because I think this place has a load of potential. It was a very live bait oriented and trolling oriented fishing lodge. Listen, the place has more world records than any lodge in the world, and it's got unbelievable fishery. But I felt like there was something we could have tapped on, and we went down there with an artificial game, throwing jerk baits, and destroyed the place. Like literally shot 3 shows in 4 days, and caught more bluefin trevally than the lodge has ever seen. Like that was like the unicorn. If you caught one, you did good. I hooked 36 of them in one episode, one day of fishing with a buddy of mine.
Wow.
And so we did that, and so I spend 2 weeks a year guiding down there. We have an inshore seminar school we created. And then I take clients down a couple times during the year there. But I've been to Guatemala, spent a lot of time now in Panama, probably a dozen trips down there. From Alaska to Panama, let's call it, is where I kind of find home.
Oh, interesting. What species are in Panama that you're targeting?
You name it. I mean, if you're a billfish fan, black marlin, blue marlin, and Pacific sails are the targeted species. There's swords down there as well, and they're starting to catch on to that. But I was there for the inshore. So the big 3 would be your roosterfish, your cubera snapper, and your bluefin trevally, which is basically the GT's little cousin.
Okay.
And then you've got, up to 22 inshore species. We've hooked marlin within 200 yards of shore there.
Wow.
You're trolling for bait in the morning if you want to do some live bait fishing, and we've hooked sailfish on our bait rods, like right beside the shore. So, Sierra mackerel, and there's a good run of Pacific tarpon there now, where we've caught 150-pound tarpon on artificials.
Unbelievable.
So really, the sky's the limit.
That sounds fun, man.
It's very fun. Yellowfin tuna, more than you could ever try to catch in a day. I can usually wear a client out in about 2 hours on yellowfin. And the mahi fishing in the winter months I just did a show. I took Bassmaster Elite Series angler Cooper Gallant down there with me in December, and we hooked 56 mahi in 7 hours on the water and lost another 30 casting artificials.
Anybody fly fishing down there?
Yeah, there is. There's a few clients. There's been quite a few, actually, world records broken, fly class tippet records down there.
Really?
Yeah. So, there's all kinds of opportunities, especially when you get the bait lined up, and that happens at several times during the year, and you'll get fish just thrashing bait balls of sardines.
Yeah.
I mean, you could pretty much catch them on a shoelace at that point. So,
what's Panama like?
The city is great. I actually really like it. I describe it as modern with a side of dirty. Okay, so it is.
That's good.
It's got its financial district where there is, JW, Marriott JWs, and high-end malls that have Breitling and Ferragamo stores in them, and Rolex stores in them. But then there's also the barrios, which, where people are hanging their clothes out on it. So it's modern with a side of dirty. It's relatively safe. There's bad areas you don't want to go into, but there's plenty of great areas, and you can walk. I take the bus when I have to go places if I'm in the city. But when we're at the lodge, we're 150 miles from the closest road. We're literally 150 miles south of Panama City in the Darien jungle.
Oh, bitchin'. And what's the food like?
At the lodge, phenomenal.
Yeah,
when you got a chef like Gabriel. I mean, he's a Michelin star chef. So let's just say I come back a little bigger than I go down.
Nice. And is it like Panama food or?
So we do Panamanian once in a while when we're down there. I'll bring people to like a local Panamanian restaurant, and it's great food. I mean, it's very typical Central American food.
Yeah.
Empanadas and, rice dishes and, lots of chicken and meat dishes. But down at the lodge, I mean, everything from bacon wrapped filet mignon with mushroom gravy to paella to, homemade desserts and breads every single day.
Sounds amazing, man. Fishing, killer food.
It doesn't suck. Let's put it that way.
So are those trips usually sold out, or you have like your clients that go down there every year with you, or are you looking for more people to go, or?
So the inshore seminar, I'm actually leaving on the 5th of this next month. So March 5th as we head down. We have availability of usually 10 boats per week. We do it for 2 weeks. I think this year we have 38 people going down or 36 people going down.
Oh my gosh.
It's a first come, first serve basis. There's 4 instructors that are down there. Myself, Captain Bo Johnson, and Captain Patrick McCafferty from Florida. They're from Cape Coral. They're kind of the guys that do shark, grouper, snapper, tarpon, fishing out in Pine Island Sound area. And then Captain Richard White is the fishing director there. He's also, so the clients basically fish for 4 days down there. And they'll fish 2 of the 4 with one of us.
I see.
So we'll be in the boat. We do casting instruction on the beach and, teach them how to work the lures properly. And what we're trying to teach people is that you can catch, with good casting, practices, you can catch a lot of fish on artificials, not sit down and drink beer and troll. That's kind of not my game. So
yeah, me neither. Sounds like a super fun trip. I mean, what a difference going from Canada, where it's just completely cold, right? And then going down there. I mean, it's a big difference, right?
Oh yeah, it's huge. I mean, every day is 80 degrees down there at a minimum, right? So it's very Central America temperature based. A little bit humid, pretty dry in the springtime there, a little more rainy in the wintertime, a little more wavy in the wintertime, super calm waters. In the springtime, like literally, like sometimes it's a sheet of glass out there. You could be 20 miles offshore chasing tuna and see a reflection in the water. Oh, bitchin'.
Your YouTube channel, JP DeRose YouTube channel, it has all your videos on there. Is that right?
It has I do my instructional videos more so and tip videos on that. I don't put my full length shows on there. So basically, I found something very unique with YouTube. I think the more professional your production is, I think the worse it does on YouTube. And I honestly believe that because I feel like people who watch like homemade videos, simple videos, feel like they can relate to them more because it's something they can do.
Yeah.
When you start dropping highly produced motion graphic work and, cinematic camera work and, engineered audio, I feel like you lose the viewer.
Okay.
I feel like that's not. They're on Netflix for stuff like that, or on Amazon Prime TV for stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I keep YouTube for what I use YouTube for. I use YouTube as a learning tool, so I keep my content to things that educate. I do a lot of work with Shimano North America, so I'll take all their new products and I'll break them down for people into. There's a lot of technology in reels. I'll break them down into very basic terms so people can understand how the technology affects them.
I mean, I like it.
So that's what I do with YouTube.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I see all the teaching videos on there, even knots. What is the strongest, easiest fishing knot, gear and equipment. And I mean, that's so important for a lot of folks out there, getting into fishing. And, I noticed
even people who have been in fishing a long time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of little tips and tricks to make you more successful that, ideally we want to teach people to catch fish because catching fish is what makes you keep fishing.
Absolutely. And your production, shows are on Waypoint TV and others. What other networks are they on?
Correct. I have some on Amazon Prime TV as well. I've kind of dabbled in that and uploaded. I believe I uploaded maybe a season and a half onto Amazon Prime TV. I just wanted to see what was involved in doing that, and I probably will, once I free up schedule time, get some more episodes up there, because it does get rather good views. But Waypoint TV has been it's kind of been the place I've rested my hat for a bunch of years. I started on, with World Fishing Network, and broadcast TV is a completely different animal. There's a lot of hoops.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of extra work that a network demands of you. But the fact is, a specialty channel that someone has to pay for just doesn't have the reach that they say it does.
Right.
It doesn't have the viewership that they say it does. It may be available to 10 million or 20 million or 50 million homes.
Yeah.
But are they buying that channel to watch fishing, or are they buying that channel to watch hunting, or is it just part of a giant package that they purchased and they don't watch either?
Yeah. Interesting.
So that's where I kind of went to. Waypoint TV was created, and I did both for a couple of years, but my numbers started to rapidly exceed what I was getting from broadcast on Waypoint TV.
Uh-huh.
And I felt like it was the future. I think that, you're seeing IPTV become more and more pervasive throughout the market. We're seeing things like linear TV channels, like free channels with Samsung TV Plus and Apple TV and Zumo and Stir and Atmosphere and all these services where they run these digital-only channels, and it's becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. And I figured that, broadcast TV, I figured 6 years ago that broadcast had about 10 or 12 years left in it. And we just decided to hang our hat with Waypoint TV, and it's been great. I mean, we do over 8.5 million views a year on the channel, and I get lots of recognition from the channel, and they're easy to work with, and I'm not jumping through crazy hoops and time constraints and audio crap that I'd have to do before.
Yeah,
it's just a lot easier.
Isn't that nice? That's cool. So if you had some advice to give to like somebody who was wanting to, I consider you kind of like an entrepreneur, you've created your world and your income basically through fishing and videos and being a TV personality and everything. If you had advice to give to somebody that wanted to get into that world, what would you say to them?
I think you got to figure out who you are first.
Uh-huh.
I think for a lot of people when we first start out in this game is you try to be what you think you want to be. You try to act like a person you look up to. You try to mimic or imitate the way that person's show may look or the way that person acts on camera.
Uh-huh.
I think until you truly figure out what you were made to do. I feel like there's something I was made to do. I feel like I was made to explain things to people. I feel like I was made to know and understand gear and how to apply it and, break down fishing.
Yeah.
Once I settled into that and I said, listen, I'm not a comedian.
Yeah.
I'm not political. I'm not the most overly excitable person in the world, but I can explain just about anything to anybody.
Uh-huh.
That's where I've rested my hat. And once you find that, pursue it. Be the best at what you are. Don't try to be someone else.
Right, exactly. I think personality says a lot, just be yourself out there. And
it's more genuine.
Yeah.
When it's actually you, there's no facade. There's no, you're not putting up a front to try to be something you're not. You just actually be yourself.
Yeah.
No different than you and I having this conversation on the phone. I don't have pre-registered answers for you. This is exactly who I am.
Yeah, I love it. Perfect. So if people want to find you out there, where would they go and that sort of thing?
Well, easiest thing, if they want to see the show, Waypoint TV is kind of a cool deal because it's a completely free thing. When someone says worldwide free, it's an on-demand. You can go on a laptop or a desktop and type in waypointtv.com, search fishing shows, and look for Breaking Boundaries. That's the show we do. We also produce another show called BaitFuel Fishing Tour. It used to be called Renegade Bass TV. So you could do that. If you have linear TV, they have channels. Look for the Waypoint TV channel as well. Or you can download the app to your phone and Chromecast or Apple AirPlay to your TV, or download it to your Apple TV. So few options for the show side, but social media wise, JP DeRose Outdoors is where I hang my hat on YouTube and on Instagram and on Facebook. So, if people have questions, they want to learn something, I always invite people every time I do a new video that if you have a question regarding what I'm talking about, or you need some help setting yourself up, just drop me a message. We're actually pretty good at getting back to people.
Perfect. JP, I learned a lot, man. Just talking to you this little short time. I'm like, wow, so good, man.
This went by a lot quicker than I thought. You were like, it'll be close to an hour. And I'm like, okay, it's easy.
No, man. I mean, this is perfect. It gets everything out there to everybody that's listening of what you do and learn a little bit about making videos and the business, and pretty awesome. Okay, one last question.
Sure.
Favorite species to catch?
Well, that's a tough one.
Right?
It's hard because even though I grew up bass fishing, right?
Yeah.
I grew up, chasing green and brown fish in tournaments. But the other half of my life is I grew up in Padre Island fishing off piers in the saltwater. That's where I learned my love for saltwater. Okay. So I'll say this. I'm not going to pick a species. I'm going to pick a way to catch them. And I'm going to say it's sight fishing.
Yeah.
I don't care what the species. It could be a bluegill. It could be a carp. It could be a largemouth, smallmouth. It could be a roosterfish. If I can make a cast and watch that fish eat the bait, that is by far my favorite way. It's you and the fish, and it's your ability to trick the fish into striking. For me, that's the game. Yeah. The game is using your eyes. It's not forward-facing sonar. It's not... I want to see the target. I want to make the cast. I want to make the fish bite, and I want to set the hook and land the fish. So sight fishing would be my thing. And fly fishermen will definitely agree with that, because for a lot of people on a flat, there's nothing better than sight fishing a trout in a riffle or a bonefish on a flat or something like that.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head, man. Perfect. Hey, JP, thanks so much for being on my podcast, buddy. I'll promote you all I can, and hope to talk to you again sometime, man. Maybe do some smallmouth up there in Canada. All right, man. All right.
Be spring soon enough.
All right, man. Well, take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Right, bye-bye. With everything going on in the world today, right now could be the best time ever to diversify your retirement savings with precious metals like gold and silver. I just bought some precious metals myself, and I got them from the top-rated company Goldco. They couldn't have made the process easier, and their customer service was impeccable. Goldco has helped thousands of people just like you and me place over $2.5 billion in gold and silver. They're rated A+ by Better Business Bureau. They've earned over 5,000 5-star reviews. They're a 7-time Incorporated 5,000 winner, and that's just mentioning a few of their accomplishments. There's plenty more. Right now, for my listeners, they're offering up to $10,000 in bonus silver. You heard that right, up to $10,000 in bonus silver, but only while supplies last. Go to goldco.com/guy to learn more. That's goldco.com/guy. Diversify your savings with gold and silver today at goldco.com/guy.
It's a Guy Jeans podcast.